Alright, I never thought I'd be the guy posting here, but here we are. I'm 33M. My wife is 31F. We've been together 8 years, married for 5. No kids. Decent jobs. On paper, we were fine. Not the overly affectionate couple, not toxic either. Just stable. Or at least I thought so. If I'm being honest, she's always had a sharp edge. When we were dating, I mistook it for confidence. She'd say exactly what she thought. No filter. If a waiter messed up, she'd call it out. If I forgot something, she'd make a cutting joke about it. I used to laugh it off. Told myself, that's just how she is. But over the last year, that sharpness turned into something else. Snapping over small things. Accusing me of interrogating her when I'd ask basic questions like, "Hey, what time will you be home?" She started using this phrase constantly. Can you not? Anytime I tried to talk about anything remotely serious. Bills. Intimacy. Why she was suddenly coming home at midnight twice a week. And then the lying started. Small at first. She'd say she was at work late, but I'd see she was active on social media from a bar across town. When I asked casually, she'd roll her eyes and say, "Oh my God, it was just one drink. Do I need to send you a GPS log now?" She always made it sound like I was the unreasonable one. The physical distance crept in too. She stopped touching me. No random hugs. No leaning on my shoulder during movies. If I tried to initiate anything, she'd sigh dramatically and say, "Is that all you think about?" It wasn't about sex. It was about feeling wanted. Then came the sudden glow up. New gym membership. New clothes. New perfume I'd never smelled before. She guarded her phone like it contained nuclear codes. If I walked into a room unexpectedly, she'd tilt the screen away in one smooth, practiced motion. I asked about it once. She snapped, "Why are you acting paranoid? This is exhausting." Exhausting. That word started showing up a lot. And here's the worst part. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. Because the alternative meant my entire marriage might be a lie. Looking back now, the red flags weren't subtle. They were screaming. I just didn't want to hear them. And then something happened that made it impossible to ignore anymore. But I'll get to that. So here's where things stopped being, maybe I'm overthinking, and started being, something is very, very wrong. It was a random Thursday. Nothing dramatic about the day itself. She texted around 6:30 p.m. saying she had to stay late for a client issue. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual? The tone. Short. Cold. No emoji. No love you. Just working late. Don't wait up. Around 9 p.m. I checked our shared credit card app because I was paying bills. There was a charge at a wine bar downtown. Not near her office. Not near home. Downtown. A place we'd actually gone to once on an anniversary. One charge. 2 glasses of wine. I stared at it for a solid minute. When she got home just before midnight, she smelled like cologne. Not perfume. Cologne. And not mine. I tried to stay calm. "Thought you were at the office," I said. "I was," she replied instantly, kicking off her heels. "There's a charge from that wine bar." She didn't even blink. "Yeah, we went after. My team. God, do I have to give you a full itinerary now?" "Who's we?" She gave me that look. The one that makes you feel small. "My coworkers. You don't know them." I didn't push further that night, but something shifted in me. It wasn't anger yet. It was awareness. Over the next few days, I started noticing patterns. She changed her phone passcode. Said it was for work security. She started sleeping with her phone face down. She'd take it to the bathroom. She'd smile at it sometimes. This soft, private smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. Then came the moment I can't unsee. She was in the shower. Her phone buzzed on the counter. I wasn't planning to look, I swear, but it buzzed again and again. The preview showed one name, M. Message, "Last night was worth it." My stomach dropped so fast I thought I was going to pass out. Another message came in. "Wish I was still in that hotel bed with you." Hotel. I didn't scroll. I didn't open it. I just stared at the lock screen like it was written in a language I didn't want to understand. The shower turned off. I put the phone back exactly where it was and walked out. That night, she curled up next to me like nothing was wrong, rested her head on my chest, said she was tired, and all I could think was, how long? How long had I been sleeping next to someone who was living a double life? The next morning she was extra sweet, made coffee, kissed me before work, felt rehearsed, controlled, and that's when I did something I never thought I would do. I checked the phone bill. Hundreds of messages to the same number. Late nights, early mornings, weekends. This wasn't flirting. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a relationship. And I knew I was about to confront something that would either destroy my marriage or reveal that it had already been destroyed. I didn't confront her right away. That's the part I'm not proud of. Instead, I sat on that information for 3 days. I went to work. I answered emails. I nodded through meetings while my brain replayed those 2 messages over and over. Last night was worth it. Wish I was still in that hotel bed with you. Hotel. We hadn't stayed at a hotel together in over a year. I watched her more closely after that. Not obsessively, just quietly. And when you're not in denial anymore, the details are brutal. She'd angle her phone away from me without even thinking. Her face would soften when texting, that private smile again. She'd leave the room to take calls and say it was work stuff. Then something unexpected happened. She told me she had a mandatory weekend training out of town. 2 nights, Friday to Sunday. My chest tightened immediately. Where? I asked. Upstate somewhere, she said casually. They booked it. What hotel? She hesitated, just for half a second. Then, I don't remember the name. You don't remember the name of the hotel you're spending 2 nights at? Can you send it to me? I asked. She snapped instantly. Why? Are you planning to audit my trip? There it was. Aggression. Deflection. I just want to know where my wife is staying, I said. She rolled her eyes. God, you're exhausting lately. That word again. Friday came. I watched her pack. And this is the detail that broke something inside me. She packed lingerie. The kind she hadn't worn for me in over a year. When I tried to initiate anything in that time, I got shut down with, I'm tired. But suddenly she had energy. She kissed me goodbye like nothing was wrong. 2 hours after she left, I called the hotel she had mentioned once months ago for a company event. They had no reservation under her name. None. My hands went cold. Then, like the universe decided subtlety was overrated, my friend texted me that night. Hey man, random question. Is your wife at the Lakeview in this weekend? My heart stopped. Yes, I typed, even though she'd never actually confirmed that hotel. Oh, weird. I'm here for my cousin's thing. Pretty sure I just saw her in the lobby with some guy. Some guy. I didn't ask for details. I just got in my car. 3-hour drive. I don't even remember most of it. I just remember gripping the steering wheel and thinking, please let this be a misunderstanding. When I pulled into the parking lot, I almost turned around. Then I walked inside, and I saw her, laughing, her hand resting on some guy's arm like it had been there 100 times before. And in that moment, everything I'd been trying not to believe became painfully, undeniably real. I didn't explode. That's what I thought I would do. Storm in, yell, make a scene. Instead, I just stood there for a second, watching. She was wearing that black dress she once said was too much effort for date nights with me. Hair done, makeup flawless. She looked alive, relaxed, happy. Happier than I'd seen her in months. The guy, I'm assuming, had his hand on her lower back. Not awkwardly, not cautiously, comfortably, like he belonged there. The sliding glass doors opened behind me and she finally noticed me. Her smile vanished instantly. What are you doing here? She asked. Not, oh my God. Not, this isn't what it looks like. Just immediate irritation. I almost laughed at the audacity. I could ask you the same thing, I said. The guy looked between us like he'd just realized he was in the wrong movie. This is insane, she snapped. stepping slightly away from him. You followed me? Followed her. You told me this was a work training, I said calmly. It is, she shot back. He's a colleague. I looked at him. He didn't say a word, didn't defend her, didn't correct me. Colleagues usually text about hotel beds? I asked. Her face changed for half a second. Just enough. You went through my phone? She hissed. There it was. Flip the script. I saw the messages, I said. And there's no reservation under your name. Silence. The guy muttered something about giving us space and walked away. Didn't argue. Didn't deny anything. That told me more than words could. Now it was just us in the lobby. Fine, she said, crossing her arms. Defensive. Cold. I'm not happy. I haven't been for a while. That sentence hit harder than seeing her with him. Because suddenly this wasn't just an affair. It was a rewrite of our entire marriage. So you start sleeping with someone else? I asked. She didn't answer directly. It just happened, she said. That phrase, like she slipped and fell into another relationship. How long? I asked. A few months. My stomach dropped. Define a few. She looked away. Does it matter? Yes, it mattered. Every month meant holidays, anniversaries, nights she said, I love you, and then texted him after I fell asleep. Did you sleep with him? I asked. She went quiet. You don't get to interrogate me, she said, and that was my answer. Anger surged up so fast I had to physically step back. What was the plan? I asked. You just keep this going forever? I didn't have a plan, she snapped. Of course she didn't. And standing there, looking at the woman I thought I knew, I realized something devastating. She wasn't sorry. She was annoyed that I'd ruined her weekend. We went up to her room. I don't even remember deciding to. She just grabbed the keycard off the counter like I was an inconvenience she had to manage. Not her husband who just drove 3 hours after catching her cheating. The elevator ride was dead silent. Inside the room, there were 2 wine glasses on the desk. The bed wasn't messy, but the throw blanket was on the floor. A suitcase open. Her lingerie laid out neatly on the chair. Planned. That's what hurt the most. Not impulse. Not drunken stupidity. Planned. So what do you want? She asked, tossing her purse onto the table. I stared at her. I want the truth. You already know it, she said sharply. Then say it. She sighed dramatically. Yes, I've been seeing him. Seeing him. Not I made a mistake. Not I screwed up. Just clinical wording. For how long? I asked. 6 months. 6. That meant birthdays. That meant Thanksgiving. That meant our anniversary. All of it fake. My chest physically hurt. And you were just going to keep lying? I asked. She crossed her arms. You've been distant for years. That blindsided me. I asked you to go to therapy last year, I said. You said we didn't need it. Because we don't, she snapped. We just aren't compatible anymore. Compatible. 8 years reduced to a compatibility issue. If you were unhappy, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, you talk to me. You don't build a second relationship. She laughed under her breath. You wouldn't have listened. That one hit deep. Because I would have. I would have gone to counseling. I would have changed schedules. I would have fought for us. Instead, she chose someone else while pretending to work late. Do you love him? I asked. She hesitated. I don't know. There it was again. I don't know really means I don't want to admit it. I sat down on the edge of the bed. Their bed for the weekend, and something in me just broke. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a quiet internal collapse. You didn't even try to fix this, I said. I tried, she snapped. You just didn't notice. The rewriting of history was almost impressive. I didn't cheat, I said. She looked away, and that's when I realized the worst part of all this. She wasn't fighting for our marriage. She was fighting to not look like the villain. What do you want to do? She asked. That question felt surreal, like I was the one who had detonated the bomb. I looked at her, Really looked at her and tried to find the woman I married. The one who used to laugh at stupid memes with me at 2 a.m. The one who used to reach for my hand without thinking. All I saw was someone defensive, irritated, cornered. "I want you to be honest for once," I said. She exhaled sharply. "Fine. He makes me feel wanted." There it was. Wanted. The irony almost made me dizzy. I had been trying to connect with her for months, trying to plan date nights, trying to talk, trying to touch her, and she made me feel like a burden for it. "You pushed me away," I said quietly. "I didn't push you away," she shot back. "You stopped being exciting. Stopped being exciting. Like I was a Netflix show that ran too many seasons." "So you upgraded?" I asked. She rolled her eyes. This isn't a competition, but it was, and she had already chosen. A knock at the door interrupted us. Room service. 2 breakfasts scheduled for the morning. The guy at the door asked where to place them. She hesitated. I said, "Just leave them outside." The silence after the door closed was suffocating. 2 breakfasts. For a morning I wasn't supposed to exist in. That detail hurt more than the messages. "You were going to wake up next to him?" I said flatly. She didn't deny it. She just looked tired, annoyed that this was messy now. "Are you going to divorce me?" she asked suddenly. No tears, no desperation, just calculation. That question hit me in a strange way, not because I didn't know the answer, but because she still hadn't said, "I'm sorry." Not once. "I'm not staying married to someone who's living a double life," I said. For the first time that night, she looked uncertain. "You're overreacting," she said. "Overreacting. 6 months of lies, hotels, another man, and I'm overreacting." I stood up. "I'm done begging to be chosen," I said. That seemed to shake her more than anything else I'd said. "You're just walking away?" she asked. "You already did," I replied. And that was the moment I realized something painful but freeing. I wasn't losing her. I was losing the illusion of her. I left. No dramatic shouting. No thrown objects. No hotel lobby meltdown. Just walked out. The drive home felt unreal, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart from the passenger seat. I kept replaying everything she said. "He makes me feel wanted. You stopped being exciting. You're overreacting." Not once. "I'm sorry." About halfway home, the anger hit hard. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles hurt. I thought about every time she called me paranoid. Every time she made me feel crazy for noticing something was off. She wasn't confused. She was calculated. By the time I got home, it was 3 a.m. The house felt different, empty in a way it never had before. Her shoes were still by the door. Her coffee mug in the sink. A blanket half folded on the couch. I stood there for a minute and then just sat down on the kitchen floor. And I cried. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just this quiet, exhausted breakdown. The kind where your chest feels hollow. Because it wasn't just about her cheating. It was realizing I'd been sharing a bed with someone who was actively betraying me and still looking me in the eyes every day. The next morning, she started calling. 3 missed calls. 2 texts. "Can we talk?" "You left without letting me explain." "Explain what?" "The logistics." I didn't respond. Instead, I did something that made everything feel very real. I called a divorce attorney. Even saying the word out loud felt like I was stepping into someone else's life. But the lawyer was calm, practical, asked basic questions. Assets. Kids, none. Length of marriage. I answered like I was reading from a script. Around noon, she called again. I picked up. "What are you doing?" she asked immediately. "At home. You just left me there." "You weren't alone," I said. Silence. "That's not fair," she muttered. "Fair. You lied to me for 6 months," I said. "You don't get to talk about fair." She started crying then. Loud. Messy. "I don't want to lose everything," she said. And that sentence told me everything. Not, "I don't want to lose you." I don't want to lose everything. The house. The stability. The comfort. I closed my eyes. You already did, I said quietly. And for the first time since the hotel lobby, I felt something shift inside me. Not relief, not peace, just clarity. The next few days were chaos. She came home Sunday evening like nothing had happened. Suitcase rolling behind her. Same sharp tone. Same controlled posture. Are we really doing this? She asked the second she walked in. Doing this? You mean dealing with the fact you've been cheating on me for half a year? I said. She dropped the suitcase harder than necessary. I told you I was unhappy. That's not a hall pass. She ran a hand through her hair. Frustrated. You act like I'm some villain. I just stared at her. You lied. Repeatedly. You gaslit me. You made me feel insane for asking normal questions. That's dramatic, she snapped. There it was again. Dismissal. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. He ended it, she said suddenly. I blinked. What? He said this got too messy. Too messy. So the guy who was fine sharing hotel beds suddenly didn't like consequences. And now? I asked. She hesitated. Now I want to fix this. The audacity almost knocked the air out of me. You want to fix this? I repeated. Now that he bailed? That's not why, she snapped. I realized what I was risking. No, she realized what she was losing. Do you love him? I asked again. She looked away. It doesn't matter. It mattered. Because if he hadn't ended it, I don't think she'd be standing in our living room asking for reconciliation. And that realization hurt more than anything else. She started crying again, saying she made a mistake, saying she was confused, saying she felt invisible in our marriage. Invisible. I thought about the date nights I planned, the therapy suggestion she rejected, the way she pulled away first. You don't get to rewrite this, I said quietly. You didn't accidentally trip into another relationship. She sat down on the couch. For the first time since all this started, she looked small. I don't want a divorce, she said. I felt torn. Part of me still loved her. That's the ugly truth. Love doesn't switch off just because someone betrays you. But another part of me, the part that sat on that hotel bed and realized she wasn't sorry, was louder now. I can't unsee what I saw, I said. She didn't respond. And that's when I realized something terrifying. Even if she stayed, I would never fully trust her again. We tried talking. That's what she called it. For a week, we circled the same arguments over and over. She cried. She blamed stress. She blamed distance. She blamed me for pulling away, even though she was the one who stopped touching me first. Every time I brought up specifics, the hotel, the messages, the lies, she'd get irritated. Are you going to keep throwing this in my face forever? Forever? It had been 7 days. One night she said something that stuck with me. You're acting like I murdered someone. That's when it clicked. She didn't understand the depth of what she'd done. To her, it was a mistake, a phase, a bad decision. To me, it was 6 months of rewriting reality. I started sleeping in the guest room. The silence between us got heavier by the day. Then came another sudden twist. I got a message request on Instagram. From him. Short. Direct. I didn't know you were still together like that. She told me you were basically separated. My stomach dropped. Separated. She told him we were basically separated. So not only was she lying to me, she was lying to him too. I walked straight into the living room where she was scrolling on her phone. You told him we were separated? I asked. Her face drained of color. He messaged you? She said. Answer the question. She hesitated. It was easier, she muttered. Easier. That word again. You made me the villain in his version of the story, I said. While you played confused wife at home. She stood up fast. Defensive mode activated. I didn't know how to explain our situation. Our situation? I repeated. We were married. Living together. Sharing a bed. She started crying again. But this time, something inside me didn't move. No instinct to comfort. No reflex to fix it. Just distance. Because now I understood something clearly. She didn't just cheat. She constructed multiple realities and shifted between them depending on what benefited her. And I couldn't live in a marriage where truth was flexible. That night, I made the decision, not out of rage, out of clarity. I told her the next morning, "I'm filing." No yelling, no speech, just 2 words. She froze. "You're serious?" she asked. "Yes." And for the first time since all of this started, she looked scared. Not defensive, not sharp, scared. "You're really going to throw away 8 years?" she said. That line almost made me laugh. "You threw it away," I replied. "I'm just acknowledging it." She switched tactics fast. "I'll cut him off completely. I'll go to therapy. I'll give you full access to my phone. We can start over." All things she could have offered before 6 months of lies. "You didn't stop because you felt guilty," I said. "You stopped because you got caught." And then he bailed. She didn't deny it. That silence said enough. The next few weeks were brutal. Paperwork, asset discussions, splitting accounts, dividing furniture like we were dividing spoils after a war. She tried to be civil in front of others, tried to frame it as mutual. I corrected that gently but firmly. It wasn't mutual. Emotionally, I was a wreck. I'd go from anger to sadness in minutes. Some nights I'd stare at the ceiling wondering if I overreacted. But then I'd remember the hotel lobby, the breakfasts, the way she said, "You're exhausting," when I asked simple questions. And the doubt would fade. One night, during the final weeks of sorting everything, she said something that sealed it. "I didn't think you'd actually leave." That hit deep. She didn't think I'd leave. She thought I'd tolerate it, forgive it, compete for her. That realization hurt, but it also gave me strength. Because I finally understood. She underestimated my self-respect. And I wasn't going to prove her right. The divorce became official after a few months. It was mostly procedural, signing papers, dividing assets, deciding who keeps what. We didn't scream. We didn't fight. Mostly there was silence. The kind of heavy, suffocating silence that fills every corner of a home that's no longer shared. I kept the dog. That helped. He didn't understand why things were different, but his presence reminded me that life goes on, even when the people you love don't. Emotionally, I felt raw. Some nights I cried quietly on the couch. Other nights, I felt a simmering anger I couldn't shake. But slowly, I started feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Clarity. I could finally see the relationship for what it had been. Not love, not marriage, but a series of compromises and denials. A house built on shifting truths. She tried to reconcile a few times during those weeks, sending long texts, emails, even dropping by unannounced. Always dramatic, always blaming me for being distant, always softening her words with tears. But I'd realized something important. Reconciliation wasn't possible when the other person wasn't willing to admit the full truth. And she wasn't. So I stopped engaging. I stopped justifying. I stopped hoping she'd see the damage she'd done. Instead, I focused on myself, my friends, my family, my work, my dog, my sanity. And in that focus, I found a tiny, precious thing. Freedom. Rebuilding my life after her felt like starting from scratch. The first few weeks, I barely recognized myself. Waking up without her there felt hollow. Eating alone felt strange. Even walking the dog felt surreal. All the routines we shared were now mine alone. Therapy helped more than I expected. I confronted my own mistakes, ignoring the red flags, rationalizing her behavior, hoping love could fix what was broken. I cried more than I had in years. Not for her, but for the life I thought we had. I journaled obsessively. Every lie, every small betrayal, every moment she made me doubt myself went on paper. First, it was raw anger and pain. Then it became reflection. Patterns emerged. I started forgiving myself for trusting her, for loving her despite everything, for staying too long. Slowly, I rebuilt routines that were just mine. Sunday coffee on the balcony with the dog curled at my feet, long walks in the park, cooking meals I actually enjoyed. Small victories, but they felt monumental. I even started dating again, very cautiously. Not to replace her, but to remember what honest connection felt like. Every new interaction reminded me of the difference between love and manipulation, truth and convenience. I learned something crucial. Betrayal doesn't define your worth. Doesn't mean you failed. It only reveals the choices of the other person. And your healing doesn't require them. The legal side of things wrapped up faster than I expected. Dividing assets, signing final papers, handing over keys. It felt clinical, almost unreal. No dramatic showdown, no shouting matches, just quiet, bureaucratic closure. Yet emotionally, it was anything but quiet. Some days I woke up in a cold sweat, haunted by memories. Other days I felt a spark of relief, like a weight lifting. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected, laughed more freely, found comfort in routines that were just mine. Slowly, I realized the anger that had burned so fiercely was transforming into what I wasn't sure yet, clarity maybe, acceptance perhaps. The house felt different without her. The silence was heavy but honest. I allowed myself to feel everything: grief, rage, disbelief. I cried alone. I vented to friends. I journaled. But every small step forward reminded me I wasn't broken. I started planning small things for myself. Trips, hobbies, even a new gym routine. I didn't need permission. I didn't need anyone else's approval. And one night, as I sat on the balcony with the dog and a cup of coffee, it hit me. I could live again. Not the same life, not the old life. A new life. My life. It wasn't over yet. Healing would take months, maybe years. But for the first time since the betrayal, I felt like I was steering instead of being tossed by someone else's choices. Rebuilding wasn't linear. Some days I felt like I'd never trust anyone again. Other days I felt almost hopeful. Therapy became essential. I learned to separate my self-worth from her actions. To forgive myself for believing in someone who didn't deserve my trust. To recognize patterns I'd ignored. My tendency to rationalize, to minimize, to hope that love alone could fix what wasn't fixable. I reestablished routines that were purely mine. Cooking without her critique, Sunday walks with the dog, evenings reading or binge-watching shows without having to explain myself. I started journaling again, not just about the pain, but about the small victories, the things I was reclaiming for myself. Dating was tentative at first. One coffee, one cautious conversation. No expectations. Just feeling what it's like to connect with someone honestly, without manipulation or secrets. I realized that betrayal isn't just about someone choosing another person. It's about realizing that your love doesn't guarantee loyalty. And that knowledge, painful as it is, became empowering. The hardest lesson was internal. I couldn't rely on anyone else to protect my emotional well-being. I had to choose it for myself, every day. And in doing so, I found strength I didn't know I had. Here's what I've learned. The stuff I wish I could have told my past self the night I discovered everything. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean suddenly trusting again. It doesn't mean your anger disappears. But it does mean reclaiming your life, reclaiming your dignity, reclaiming your peace. Love doesn't justify betrayal. Trust doesn't guarantee loyalty. And heartbreak doesn't have to destroy you. It can teach you. I've learned to value honesty above comfort. To recognize when someone's words are convenient rather than true. To set boundaries and never let someone manipulate my emotions with lies. To anyone in a similar situation, your feelings are valid. Your anger, grief, and doubt are valid. And your decision to protect yourself, whether that's leaving, staying, or taking time to think, is valid. I've rebuilt my life slowly, but it's real. I'm learning to love without surrendering my boundaries. To trust without ignoring red flags. And most importantly, to forgive myself for believing in someone who didn't deserve my trust. The sting of betrayal still lingers sometimes. That's okay. It reminds me I cared, I felt, and I'm alive. And surviving it, really surviving it, has made me stronger than I ever imagined.